Hey guys, today is a whole different feel for me. Um, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. I am in a church. It is Our Lady of Guadalupe on the south side of Chicago. And I'm here to honor my grandfather, Teofilo Barraza, who we call Teto. He uh, was 100 years old. Can you imagine living that amount of time? He just passed away. And in 2 days, this church is going to be packed with all of his loved ones. I'm sure all of South Chicago, our entire family. And I just needed to honor my grandfather and have these words that I need to let out before I am back up doing a eulogy. And as you can see, it's hard for me to even start this because we were so close. And so I just need to give my grandfather Teto a tribute. And I just thought this would be the best place to honor him right now at Our Lady of Guadalupe, the church that we basically grew up in. We would come to my grandparents' house, which is down the street, and we would come here since I was a little girl with my family. And, it's just, it's crazy how life works sometimes. Every time I think that things are finally calming down because I've talked to you about what life has been like as of recent, and so much change is happening. It's like I'm ready to speak up again, and then all of a sudden I'm ready, to get back into the rhythm of things and ready to reconnect, and then something happens that just pulls me in a completely different direction. Um, it's not that I don't want to show up. It's like I pop up and then all of a sudden I've been disappearing, and it's because life is happening and it's coming at me fast, and it comes at us fast, and I just need you to hear everything that I have to say because some people don't know how to handle this. I didn't know how to handle this. Um, Changes in life that are happening, it's very hard. It's just that life has this way of reminding you what truly matters. And when it does, everything else just fades into the background. It's not about being in a public eye anymore. It's not about speaking on other issues. And now it's actually me being raw and real with you because it is my grandfather, my Teto, who lived 100 years old. And and this matters to me. This happened to me this week. Last week felt normal. I was working, planning on catching up. I was getting ready to do another episode. I thought this is, taking off, right? Thinking about the future like I always do with a positive mind. And then out of nowhere, this phone call came from my mom. And it's the kind that shifts your whole world. This was last Wednesday. My mom told me that my grandfather had taken a turn for the worse. And even though I knew he was sick and he has been sick, one thing I need you to know about that though is that he has always come back from. There was a time during COVID that he just didn't think he was going to make it. It was like he was giving up. And he was like, just kidding, I'm still here. Like, that's what my grandfather was like. He was so strong. He just would be like, I'm back kind of thing. And so even though I knew he was sick, nothing prepares you for that moment. And hearing my mom tell me that he took a turn for the worse and maybe it's time for you to come back to Chicago, I knew something was really, really wrong. And nothing prepares you for realizing that somebody who has always, always been your rock, it's just suddenly slipping away. And I felt selfish for breaking down because how do you cry over somebody who we've been blessed to have for 100 years? 100 years of strength, of family, of stories, of love, of faith. I mean, but when you love somebody that deeply, there's just nothing that gets you ready to lose them. And my grandfather, my teto, he wasn't just a man in our family. He was the man. the patriarch, the man. He was the anchor, the storyteller, the one who would sit in his chair with that calm confidence, like he'd seen everything and he did. I mean, the stories that he used to share with me. And probably because also, no matter what, he, like I said, had always found his way back. And that's what made this so hard is that every time life hit him, he just like was the one who would be down for the count and then he pulled through, like, just kidding, like I said. And it was like his body would say, I'm done. And his spirit would respond, no, not yet. So when my mom said he'd taken a turn, I just didn't want to believe her. Because it wasn't his time. It couldn't be, it wasn't his time. Not this time. It would be like the others. And the word stage 4 cancer are never words that you want to hear. My grandfather got hit with cancer like 2 years ago, and then it spread through his body, but still he was kicking strong. And when I got to Chicago, I went straight to hospice. Um, I got to Chicago O'Hare Airport and I'm thinking to myself, okay, first of all, you just hop on a plane. You don't really plan these things out. And I didn't want my mom, who was in her own going through, everybody's planning, right? My aunts, my uncles, my sister, like everybody's got a life and everybody's planning on how they're getting there. Or somebody's there already. They're all there already. So my best friend Leslie, who always comes through for me when I say ride or die, like a sister, a family member, my girl Leslie has been there for me when I tell you through everything. And I called her and she answered the phone and like nothing, like, I'll come pick you up. I didn't even have to ask. I'll come and pick you up. We're going straight there. And she even came inside with me and the air was heavy. I could feel it before we even walked through the door. And she was already there, kind of like rubbing my back. Like she knew what I was already feeling. I was starting to feel nauseous just going through this, knowing I'm walking through these doors that say hospice. I wasn't ready, but I had to be. And I had to be his strength now because he always saw his granddaughter as that, as strength. So when I saw him, my heart just broke and swelled at the same time because even in his pain, he was still him and still handsome. He's so handsome and still strong and still my teto. His voice was faint. Um, Estaba ronquito, like in Spanish, it's like hoarse and just a little whisper, really. But when I said it, Teto, soy yo, la nieta favorita. It was our little joke. I'm the favorite grandchild. And he squeezed my hand and he giggled. He actually like had a smile on his face. He giggled and he knew I was there. In that moment, it just didn't matter that the words were gone. It's just that the love, our love, had its own love language. We had our own secret love language. And it doesn't always need sound. For days. I mean, when I tell you this got drawn out for days, I mean, my family would be there. Um, my Aunt Dora, my Uncle Roman, my mom, myself, my aunts, my cousins would all come. Family started flying in. You knew it was serious when cousins start flying in. And our family on this hospice unit, it's like, I just got to give a shout out to Dr. Watson, who was just amazing, who took care of my grandfather, and the nurses, Becky and Linda and Melody and Lotus. All of these amazing people comforted us. My grandfather took care of him so great at Swedish Covenant. I don't ever want anybody to ever go through this, but his final days, I can say with comfort, is that he was in comfort and that they cared for my grandfather. They cared for him deeply and they got to know us. And I don't know how many like people can do this, like work in hospice and get to know the families and the patient. How do they not take this home with them? They were so great to us, and this place was like they had this like dining room, and we would come with our own, because you have to force feed, family members going through this because nobody has an appetite. We would have like veggie trays out there, so we took over like this room. And it's sad to say, but so many of these patients that I saw on this floor didn't have as much family as my grandfather did. He was surrounded with love and with so many family members. And it's just sad that some people, they have to pass alone or they only have like 1 or 2 members with them. In the time that we were there for about 6 days, we saw 5 people pass away and got to know those families in that short while. And For those days with the days that I stayed with him day and night and my family as well, I was holding his hand, talking to him, even when I knew he couldn't respond. At least I got to be there for the first couple days where he got to hear and know what I was saying, and watching the rise and fall of his chest because his breathing was getting harder and there was like liquid, and you would hear this that I will never stop hearing that kind of breath. And it would get slower than the last, and the moaning, which is needed hearing the moaning. The movement was less frequent. We found ourselves whispering our prayers and not for him to stay. It wasn't for him to stay anymore. It was for him to find peace. Because I could see how tired he was. And he would tell us how tired he was. He would moan it. He would tell us how tired he was. You never think that you'll be ready to let somebody go. But when you see that they're suffering, something just shifts. You stop praying for healing, you start praying for mercy. And I never thought I'd be able to say that because when he finally passed, I thought I'd made peace with it. I really did. But then I started going through these pictures because now it's time for us to put a flash drive together for the service. And, it'll be flashing all of these pictures of the family and us together. And that is, that's when it hit me again, the second wave. And apparently this is like my third. But that one that comes after the numbness wears off, right? I came prepared with my tissues. But looking through these pictures, it was like time was taunting me. I saw his smile, I saw his eyes, that handsome face, the way he stood tall. And even in his 90s, okay, the way he'd laugh every time I would say his favorite, La Nieta Favorita, because I am. I was. Cousins, if you're watching, come on, you know. He would giggle even at the end with that. And my cousins I know are rolling their eyes. They hate to hear it, but that's okay. Because we all enjoyed the giggle that he would have every time I said it, because he knew I was the goofy one. So I'm not really saying it to be like that. I don't want you to be like, dang, that's kind of cold. It's not. That was our joke. Um, Even in his last days, when I'd lean over to his bed and whisper, Teto, yo soy la favorita, la nieta favorita, ¿verdad? He'd smile, he'd barely move, he'd squeeze my hand, he'd just giggle when there was no more strength. And that's something I'll never forget. I'll take that with me. And that little grin was our secret language. And it's funny, people always talk about inheritance and money and property when somebody passes, but the real inheritance are the moments like that. Like it's the memories that sit on your heart long enough after the person is gone. And it's the warmth that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. Going through his pictures, I started to see how much of him is in all of us and our family, and his resilience, his faith, his love for his family, his sense of humor, his quiet strength, the way he always found joy, even in his pain. He taught so much even without saying a word. My Teto was an amazing man, and like how to keep fighting when life knocks you down, how to laugh when things get hard, how to stand tall when you feel small, most importantly, how to love unconditionally. That's the thing about grief. It's not linear. It is 1 minute you're okay, the next you're on the floor because a random smell or a song or a photo brought everything rushing back. And grief just doesn't give you warning. It just shows up uninvited and it drains you for their full attention. And that's what I'm learning is grief and gratitude, they can coexist. I can miss my grandfather, my teto, and still thank God for that century. Think about that 100 years that we had with him. So I know we sound selfish, but I can cry and smile when I think about his laugh, and I can still feel the loss and still celebrate the legacy. And that's what love does, you know? It makes space for both pain and peace. And sometimes I think about what it must feel like to live 100 years. I heard all of his stories, the stories that he would give. And I mean, to see the world change so many times, think about it. He was in the Mexican military during the time of Hitler. Okay. I've got stories about that. He survived wars, loss, poverty, racism, heartbreak, cell phones, computers. This man would still smile with confusion, but still smile. I've always said that Unmuted, this podcast, is about speaking truth, even when it hurts. But this episode in this moment, I'm honoring silence too. So if you're listening to this right now, watching this right now, and I'm sorry I'm a mess, if you still have your parents, your grandparents, your loved ones, call them, visit them, tell them you love them. If you're bitter about something, if you're angry about something, apologize. Get it together and communicate, because don't wait until it's too late to say what's on your heart. I've been trying to remind myself that grief doesn't mean that something's wrong and that it means that something mattered. It just means that you loved deeply throughout even all of this pain. And that's a beautiful thing. That is why I'm being vulnerable right now. And I can tear up and say this to you. And I know I'm going to feel crazy knowing how crazy I probably look right now, but it's also thinking about legacy and what we leave behind before we go. My grandfather left more than just stories. He left examples, he left lessons, he left proof that even when life tries to break you, love can rebuild you. And that's how I want to live now. I want to live in a way that when I'm gone, the people that will love me or knew me will say, she was loved, she was light, and she was strength. So this episode of Unmuted isn't, it's not, it's not for me. It's about everyone who's lost someone and feels like their heart will never heal. I never thought I would feel this much pain. I promise you, it will heal. I'm telling myself this too. And it's not because the pain goes away, but because love teaches you how to carry it differently. And you'll laugh again. I laugh about some of our memories, and you will breathe again, and you'll find moments of joy that will surprise you. And one day you'll think of them and smile before you cry. And that's when you know that healing has started. So don't know if I'll ever stop missing my Teto, but Teto, if somehow you can hear this and I know that you're with us, gracias, mi Teto. Thank you so much. Gracias por todo, everything that you were. Gracias por querernos, for loving us the way you did, my Teto. Era el más fuerte, the strongest man I've ever known. And now your strength lives in all of us. I love you, Teto. Rest in peace.